1988, Angela Clay, 29, and her two young daughters, LaToya, 9 years old, and Lakeisha, 6 years old, were brutally murdered by Byron Lewis Black in their Nashville home. After 37 years, Byron Lewis Black was executed at 10 a.m. on August 5, 2025. At the time of his execution, Black was living with a pacemaker. This has led to his execution being likened to a noose tightening around someone's heart, loosening it, then tightening it again, causing immense pain. In response to this, Angela's sister Lynette Bell said, "They're worried about how much pain he's in, but what about the pain he left in us?" So, what exactly happened in this case? Let's dive in and find out together. But before we get into the details, leave us a comment and tell us where you're watching this from. Byron Lewis Black, a 32-year-old man, was the boyfriend of Angela Clay, a 29-year-old woman who had two young daughters, LaToya, 9, and Lakeisha, 6. The family had been living in Nashville, Tennessee, and Black had been in a turbulent relationship with Angela, marked by his jealousy and threats. Black's violence had escalated over time, especially after Angela made the decision to end their relationship and reconcile with her estranged husband, Benny Clay. In the days leading up to the murders, Angela had confided in her sister, Lynette Bell, about her plans to end things with Black. She wanted to return to her ex-husband and rebuild her family. However, Black, unable to cope with the possibility of losing Angela, became enraged. He had previously threatened her, saying he would rather kill his family than let them go through a divorce. His jealousy and fear of losing control would be the driving force behind the horrific acts he committed. On March 28, 1988, Black's rage boiled over. He waited for Angela and her children to return home, then attacked them in cold blood. Angela was shot in the head while she slept. LaToya was shot in the chest while in bed, and little Lakeisha, found in the other room, was shot while she tried to escape. The brutality of the act was undeniable, and the loss of 3 innocent lives left a permanent scar on the Clay family. The night of March 28, 1988, began like any other, but it would end in unimaginable tragedy. Byron Black, who had been in a volatile and violent relationship with Angela Clay, had already made his decision. Angela had been planning to leave him, intending to return to her estranged husband, Benny Clay, and to take her 2 young daughters, LaToya and Lakeisha, with her. On the evening of the murder, Black didn't wait for them to return home. He was already with them. He had personally picked up Angela from her job and, despite her reluctance, driven her to her mother's house, where he then took the children, LaToya, aged 9, and Lakeisha, aged 6, back with him. This was no impulsive act of rage. It was the cold, calculated setup for what was to come. Once they were all together in the apartment, Black's simmering rage reached its boiling point. Angela, having decided to end the relationship, was caught in the midst of her decision to reunite with her estranged husband. Byron Black, unable to bear the thought of losing her, carried out his brutal attack. Angela was shot in the head as she lay sleeping in her bedroom. The shot was swift, her life taken instantly, but the agony for the children had just begun. LaToya, lying next to her mother, was shot in the chest. The force of the bullet was immediate, killing her within minutes. Lakeisha, trying to escape the nightmare unfolding around her, was found in another room, shot at close range in the chest. She died slowly, struggling against her fate, her attempts to flee cut short by the man she once called her stepfather. In this act of extreme violence, Black wasn't just acting out of passion. He was taking a calculated, cold step to ensure no one would stand in his way. His jealousy and fury over Angela's decision to leave him led him to murder the family he had been part of, believing that if he couldn't have them, no one else would. After the brutal murders, Black fled the scene, attempting to cover his tracks. He had already been on work release for a previous felony, having been convicted for shooting Angela's estranged husband, Benny Clay, years earlier. But this time, he couldn't outrun the law. It didn't take long for investigators to connect the dots. Despite the lack of direct forensic evidence at the crime scene, Black was quickly identified as the primary suspect. The link between the bullet found in the victims and the bullet from the earlier shooting of Benny Clay provided the crucial break in the case. Black's previous violent history, his threat to Angela about killing her if she ever left him, and the witness statements pointing to his whereabouts on the night of the murders all pieced together a damning case. By April 21st, 1988, Black was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. His defense, however, was one of denial. He claimed he was innocent and had no part in the crime. Yet, the jury found the evidence overwhelming. On March 8, 1989, after a trial that lasted over a month, the jury convicted Black of all charges. During the sentencing phase, prosecutors pushed for the death penalty, describing Black's crime as particularly heinous. Black, in his defense, tried to claim he was under emotional distress due to the impending divorce and his troubled relationship with Angela. But the jury was unconvinced, and Black was sentenced to death for the murder of Lakeisha, while receiving 2 consecutive life sentences for the murders of Angela and LaToya. Despite his conviction, Black continued to file appeals over the years, but the evidence against him remained undeniable. His legal team attempted to argue that Black had intellectual disabilities, but the courts rejected this claim after thorough evaluations. Finally, in 2023, after years of legal battles and delays, Black's final execution date was set for August 5, 2025. As the date of Byron Lewis Black's execution approached, the emotional turmoil surrounding the case only intensified. For the family of Angela Clay and her 2 daughters, LaToya and Lakeisha, the debate about whether Black should be executed was not just a matter of legal procedure. It was a matter of the pain and suffering they had endured for over 3 decades. While Black's legal team pushed for a delay in the execution, citing his severe heart condition and intellectual disability, the Clay family found themselves caught between the legal system's complex web of appeals and their desperate need for closure. Lynette Bell, Angela's sister, expressed her frustration with the delays, noting that the legal battles seemed never-ending. They're worried about how much pain he's in, but what about the pain he left in us? The calls for clemency from Black's attorneys, arguing that he was no longer mentally competent to be executed and that his heart device could cause unnecessary suffering, only deepened the division. For the Clay family, these arguments felt like another attempt to delay justice. We've waited long enough. This is justice for my sister and my nieces. It's been 30 years. Enough is enough. The family's pain was compounded by the fact that Black's actions were being debated from a legal standpoint, while they were still haunted by the brutal memories of that night in 1988. For them, the life of the man who had taken so much from them should not be spared, no matter his condition. They struggled to understand why he was being treated with such care when their loved ones had been taken from them in such a violent, cold manner. Despite the objections from Black's defense team, many members of the Clay family felt that no amount of debate could justify the anguish they had lived with for more than 3 decades. The execution was not just about the law. It was about their right to seek justice for the unimaginable loss they had suffered. As the execution date drew nearer, the Clay family's feelings of anger and frustration only grew. They could not understand why the man responsible for their suffering was still being given opportunities for mercy while they had been denied closure for so long. For them, it was not about the technicalities of the legal system. It was about a basic sense of justice, one that had been long overdue. Byron Black was executed on August 5, 2025, for the 1988 murder of his girlfriend, Angela Clay, and her 2 young daughters, LaToya and Lakeisha, in a crime that has haunted their family for decades. The execution took place despite ongoing concerns about Black's intellectual disability and the risks posed by the heart device implanted in his chest. At 10:43 a.m. Central Time, Black was pronounced dead, but not without controversy. His execution was a culmination of years of legal battles. His defense team had raised significant concerns that Black's implanted heart defibrillator would cause severe pain and possibly restart his heart during the lethal injection process. This, they argued, could amount to a torturous execution and a violation of the U.S. Constitution. Black's attorneys and advocacy groups, including some from within the Republican Party, called for a reprieve, citing his intellectual disability and the potential cruelty of the execution process. They argued that his condition made him ineligible for the death penalty. However, despite these pleas, Governor Bill Lee decided not to intervene, and Black was executed as scheduled. Witnesses to the execution reported that Black showed visible signs of distress, with many saying that he appeared to be in pain. As the process began, he reportedly struggled to breathe, his discomfort evident as the lethal drugs took effect. Black's spiritual advisor, who was present during the execution, was heard telling him, "I'm so sorry." Black's final words were brief but poignant. "I love you, and I won't never forget you. All of our relationships have been very special. It was my pleasure in meeting everybody and the way we connected with each other. God bless you and thank you." In a more personal moment, Black expressed his belief that when he reunited with his mother in heaven, she would run to him with open arms, saying, "Son, I've been waiting for you." Despite these moments of tenderness, Black's execution was heavily criticized by his legal team and supporters. His attorney, Kelly Henry, accused the state of Tennessee of carrying out the execution with pure, unbridled bloodlust and cowardice. She condemned what she described as the brutal abuse of government power, asserting that Black, a gentle, kind, fragile, intellectually disabled man, was executed in violation of the laws of the country. Henry's words resonated with those who believed that Black's execution was not just a matter of justice, but of politics. "We are witnessing the erosion of the rule of law and every principle of human decency on which this country was founded," she said, warning that today it was Byron, but tomorrow it could be someone else, someone the public cares about. For the Clay family, the execution represents a long-awaited but deeply bittersweet moment. The legal and moral debates that surrounded Black's final days have done little to ease their pain. For Angela's sister, Lynette Bell, the execution, while a form of closure, does not bring back her loved ones or undo the years of agony. The execution of Byron Black marks the end of a chapter, but for the families involved, it remains a stark reminder of the pain that can never truly be erased. Byron Lewis Black's execution represents the culmination of decades of legal battles, delays, and painful waiting for the Clay family. For them, this long road to justice has been an emotional roller coaster, one marked by frustration, heartache, and the relentless search for closure. The debate surrounding his execution has exposed the complexities of the justice system, including the moral dilemmas faced when determining if someone's life should be taken, especially when health issues and intellectual disabilities are involved. However, for the Clay family, the issue is clear. No amount of legal maneuvering or arguments can erase the damage done on that fateful night in 1988. In the end, justice is not just about the application of law. It's about giving victims and their families the peace they deserve. For Angela, LaToya, and Lakeisha, and for the family left behind, justice is something they can never fully reclaim. But today, they can take solace in knowing that their fight for closure has been heard. The case of Byron Lewis Black highlights the emotional journey of seeking justice. After years of delays, the Clay family's fight for closure remains a testament to their strength. This case raises important questions about justice, morality, and the human cost of crime. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Thank you for watching.